So this session, everyone welcome Staffing for Success. So we've got a great panel here. We're going to talk about building and compensating your event sales team. So the goal here, I'm sure everyone who's in this business knows, anyone who's in any business knows that talented salespeople can be really hard to find. I know even here at Good Shuffle Pro, when we're hiring for salespeople, it takes a long time to find that perfect fit. And within an events organization, there are a lot of sales-focused roles, and we want to help with this panel to identify where you need to hire, finding the best people for that, and then using the techniques that this talented panel has developed to evaluate, staff your business for the sales side of the organization. So I am going to hand it over to our speakers to do a quick introduction so y'all can get to know them a bit. And Bridget, if you could kick us off, I would appreciate it.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget Nistico. I'm really excited to be here with you all today. I am the Director of Sales for Ridgewell's Catering. I'm actually new to Ridgewell, so I think I'm going on almost 6 months. My background is actually in luxury fashion with a very large e-commerce tech startup. And so I've worked for companies like Nordstrom and the gamut across luxury goods. And I've always been in sales in one form or fashion. I started out as an individual contributor and have been a director of sales for 50 plus person teams regionally, sales operations, talent and development, pretty much everything sales related has been my background. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys and hearing more about what everyone else on the panel has to contribute as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jeff?
My name is Jeff Clarke. I'm Chief Operating Officer for a company called Party Pleasers, and we operate in Ohio, primarily in Cincinnati. We have 3 different office locations in Dayton and Columbus. We've been in business, this will be our 25th year this year, actually. And we've grown that whole time with a little pause during COVID. Our primary market, we were just chatting a little bit about, our primary market is weddings. So we do close to 1,200 weddings a year between those 3 markets. And then after that, a lot of corporate audio visual. We offer DJ services, lighting services. We have photo booths, marquee letters, and decor backdrops with draping and ceiling swagging and all of those pieces. When it comes to sales, we always talk about how we don't many times have the luxury of a customer that comes back and back. The corporate does that, but with weddings, for the most part, we've had a few repeats, but mostly it's a one and done. You see them one time and now you got to go find a new client. So training up our sales team and looking for people that are always ready to keep turning over rocks and find somebody new. It's going to be a fun discussion to hear other perspectives on that.
Nice. Very good. Fernando?
Hello. My name is Fernando DaSilva. I am the owner of Signature Event Rentals. We do a lot of weddings, tents, tables, staging, dance floor, linen, decor, basically the whole thing for weddings, events, backyard parties. We're located in Virginia, about halfway between Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia. So we're right in between the 2 big cities. And we've been in business for about 7 years now and continue to grow, and hopefully we'll keep going.
Thank you. And Howie?
Hey, I'm Howie Teger from NYX Entertainment and Events. We are a regional company. We are located primarily in Washington, D.C., but our roots are from New York. So we cater from Boston to Richmond, Virginia. We do about 450 to 500 events a year. Our primary market is bar and bat mitzvahs. We do maybe 100 weddings or maybe a little less than 100 weddings a year. And then, of course, corporate. We mainly focus on DJ entertainment. We have a lighting division, a small furniture rental division, and then a novelty division that encompasses pop-up shots, photo booths, etc. We are a growing company, and we've been in business now 39 years.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, so the first topic that our panelists are going to cover for us is best practices for hiring and compensation. And Bridget, if you can start us off with a few of your thoughts around that.
Sure. So, as I was, taking a moment to reflect on some of the questions that were presented to us, I really was looking at it from an overall like sales perspective. I feel like, great salespeople can really pretty much sell anything. They should be able to go to kind of any industry, pick it up, and be able to navigate that industry. And also from a lens of, the events industry as well. So for me, when I am looking at hiring and, connecting with new potential team members or interviewing, I like to have like a really consistent set of questions that I'm asking that really speak to the role. So oftentimes I will, pair with HR. If you're a smaller company, you don't have HR. I think, if you have a co-founder or someone you can kind of collaborate with or bounce ideas off of on what are the things you're trying to extract from someone that really would help you understand if they'd be able to execute effectively on the role that you're hiring for. I think oftentimes when you get in front of someone and they have, a different background, it's easy to kind of veer off of that. And then you're not getting kind of extracting the information that you might need in order to really make a sound decision to understand if the person would be able to effectively do that role. So I would say whatever the role is, come up with those list of questions that kind of mirror the job description or what it is that you're looking for. Another thing is kind of assessing the role, its impact on the business, and opportunities for growth. So that's more related to, I think for me, in terms of like compensation and what does that really look like? And I'm going to speak more to this in one of the questions later on and what we've done to restructure and really incentivize, our sales teams. But taking a look at, what is this role like vital to your business? Oftentimes, I mean, sales, I believe is the most important department in any company. I mean, how are you bringing in the revenue, otherwise? And so I think what I found throughout myself being, your traditional salesperson and a sales director is people are incentivized by more money. And so how can you offer, whether it's, commission, if you sell more, you earn more. I know for us, we call them event designers. So we have like a split role. So for the way our business is structured, we have our event designers, which are traditional, salespeople. They're bringing in business, client relationship management. And then we have event producers. The event designers oversee the entire event. They partner with the producers to execute on the event. So they are also doing operations, logistics, and whatnot. But they have a quota, like they are responsible for multi-million dollars of revenue. And for them, they're going to bring in more business, the more they're incentivized. So we have an uncapped earnings potential with our team. We found that, for us, that works. We also did just kind of restructure based on margins to ensure that, what we were retaining, what we needed to make as a company in terms of bottom line, but also still incentivizing our salespeople. So come up with a plan that one is benefiting, you and your business and its growth, but also that is fair to the salesperson, and that really incentivizes them to just continue to keep going, because I find that most salespeople, if they have that uncapped, unlimited commission structure, they'll just, they'll keep rocking and rolling and doing what they need to do.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff, can you share your thoughts there as well?
Well, Bridget, I appreciate you saying that, because as I sat down, the first thing I thought was I never want to put a limit on somebody. And then I looked at your notes and I saw that you were hitting that. And so I just want to strongly second that last point is don't put a ceiling on people in this world. Let them go sell as much as they can. And you tend to find out who your real performers are. And I tell my sales team all the time, I want you to make as much as you can. Like, I want to see you making over $100,000 a year. I want to see you making this kind of money. Please go do it, because then we're all succeeding. When we're doing that, though, I think it's very important to be careful. And this really applies to when you have multiple offices or multiple sales teams, but to be careful that you don't create pay plans that cause divisive competition between your players. Okay. So you don't want people to be able to fight over leads. And you don't want them to be always saying, well, I'm going to take this one from that guy, and hurting the company. So be careful and develop pay plans where it's a win-win for everybody. In our case, right now, we're developing one where we have our frontline salesperson that meets with that client, but then they may hand them over to a master decorator that's going to go upsell. And we have to be careful to not create a pay plan where that second person takes all the commission, but where they both win is what I'm saying. So now they're both incentivized to push it to that so that that sale grows from here. Many times it doubles and even triples when it gets in the hands of that master decorator. So look for ways to create pay plans that are win-win for everybody. When we go to hiring, I say try them out. And we have the luxury, because we're so focused on weddings and we are a DJ company like Howie, we have the luxury of having these people with talent that are able to speak on their feet. And we do a lot of trade shows. And one of my favorite things to do is go to trade shows with people who are on our staff and see how they perform, talking to people on their feet and selling on their feet. You can quickly identify at a wedding show, at a mitzvah show, how well somebody can sell when they're talking at those shows. And it's a great opportunity to try them out. So we like to hire. Our first place we look to hire are from our full-time staff, because when that client first walks in, the person that can sell to them most effectively is somebody who's familiar with their venue, who's familiar with their type of event and has performed those before. They have a huge leg up on another talented salesperson that's never been in that venue, that's never seen that. So if I can hire from within my staff, I will. And we like to try them out by watching them at bridal shows. And the third piece here is that onboarding process of making sure that they have time to train. You give them a little bit of, we always give them a compensation window or a time where they're on a set pay, and then that actually drops and it goes to a higher commission pay after a set window, so that it's a chance for them to train and shadow one of our other sales team, and get their feet under them and understand the process. I mentioned before, but every year our clients, it's a revolving door. They're new people every year for the most part. But our type of selling in the event industry is very different than other type of sales in my career. This is a very emotional sale. And so if you can connect to that person on an emotional level, if you can find somebody that's likable, that's going to be a big advantage to somebody that can really talk their way around something. Because it's such an emotional sale. They want to envision and like that person that's going to be a part of their event.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. And Fernando, it sounds like you might have a slightly different view on the commission versus the base pay.
Yeah, so here what we do, so we hired a second salesperson, and it's more year over year versus the commission. So she came in as part of a team. So what we thought was we really have these inside salespeople, and we have her going out selling and trying to get, so we're going more to B2B versus Jeff, that's more just B2C, going to those weddings and individual people. We believe it's like we have a scale of 3 10s that we call it. So we have we got to get that trust level up to a 10 for all these different venues, caterers that are going to work with us on a continuous basis throughout the year. So when our clients, we're trying to build the 110 is 1, trust the product, 2, trust the salesperson, and 3, trust the company, right? So we want to make sure that they are getting that trust level up, so they know that we're going to work with us and they can depend on us throughout the year, that we're not going to, when they rent tables, chairs, a tent, we're going to come through for them. So when we're dealing with a lot of our outside B2B clients, it's making sure that we have their trust. So on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, they're always renting from us. So just like Bridget said, I think any person can sell. If they're a salesperson, they can sell anything. So we just really want to train them. So when we bring them in, we try to have a comprehensive plan and expectations of who we're going to go after. We're going after venues, we're going after wedding planners, caterers, et cetera. So we have a roadmap for success that everyone's on the same sheet of music. We like to give as much training as we can to clients, outside training, anything through ARA, things like this. So always trying to give them the confidence and education that they need to be successful. And the third thing is that we do is regular meetings. So we have weekly meetings to see where we are, where we're going. So everyone's on the same sheet of music. We all have we have our goals that we set up, and then we just keep ourselves accountable and see how we're doing on that weekly basis.
Nice. Thank you. And Howie, I think your story about hiring your salesperson might be a little different, taking a page from Jeff spoke about the internal promotions.
Yeah, so, I'm one of these people who loves self-help books, and I love listening to really big CEOs. And I think Mark Cuban said it best. Every business in the world, regardless of the service or product that they offer, needs one thing to be an actual business, and that's customers. And the salespeople who sell a good salesperson is really hard to find. And there's every company, based on the nuance of the product or service that you offer, has to develop, I guess, like Bridget said, their own criteria of what they're looking for. Selling catering might be a little bit different than selling DJs like Jeff or I, or what Fernando does. But a good salesperson could sell anything. For me, I do the sales. I primarily did the sales for many years as my company, and I'm what they call, I guess, an emotional seller. To Jeff's point, when people are in our industry, a bride looking for services or a bar mitzvah family, it's not an intelligent decision they're making, it's an emotional one. So if you connect with them the right way, you're able to sell. And if you're really good at connecting emotionally, you're going to do really well with sales. For years, I sold very effectively and had a great, a growing business. But recently, I had hired a young lady as an admin assistant in my office. And she came in, she was super confident. She picked up things very, very fast. And what I liked about her was, as any new employee, when she ran out of something to do, she would remember something from a company meeting that we discussed we wanted to accomplish, and she would just jump on that. Needless to say, her office is right next to mine, and she would listen to my sales calls. And then one day I'm in my office and I hear her, and she's on the phone with a customer, completely different personality than mine, not the way I sell, but I heard her repeating things the way I would say them or in her own way. And then a week later, I walk into my office and there are 5 contracts laying on my desk. And I said, I don't recognize these names. She goes, oh yeah, I had 5 sales meetings last week that I set up for myself. And I booked all 5. And she laid it out. She did, I think, 60,000 in sales in one afternoon. And I was just like, holy cow. Did I set up to hire a salesperson? No, I would say I got very, very lucky. And she took off with it. And so as such, to also back to Bridget's point and to Fernando, at that point you realize, okay, if you want to keep them motivated, now I have to set up a commission structure for her to keep her motivated, to keep her on those phone calls. And so, I'm not as big as I know Ridge Wells, we work with you guys. Actually, we're working with you this Saturday at an event. But basically, we're definitely a 7-figure company, but we're not doing tens of millions a year. So we don't have hundreds of thousands to throw out. But what I did was I created a commission schedule for her that really kept her motivated. So in addition to her salary, she is able now to be compensated for not only new sales that she does, but also upgrades, because upgrades are huge. After the initial sale, we want to add at least 5 or 10,000 in upgrades to every event we do. So I created a scale. Here's what will happen if you book the main thing, and then here's a scale for upgrades. And again, to everyone's point, no limit. I told her, I don't care if your check is 2,000-3,000 a week. I'm happy to write the check. And finding the right people, nurturing them, and compensating them is the key to success for a company, as far as I feel.
Great, thank you. So it sounds like we are all in agreement that a very good salesperson can sell pretty much anything. So the next question is, what are the qualities that we are looking for when identifying that great salesperson? And Bridget, I'll let you kick us off.
Sure. Yeah. So I think one of the benefits of my perspective is that being in a different industry and transitioning into events, I actually started in events before moving into fashion and then now making my way back. So I think, you know, for this industry particularly, so I was brought on to scale and expand our existing sales team. So with my background in taking a startup to IPO, putting processes, structure, systems in place to effectively hire and, you know, bring in some new team members with our expected growth for the year. So, you know, through this interview process, I think it's really been interesting when I've spoken to people that don't have a ton of like, you know, events or industry experience, and just, you know, the expectations. I mean, as we know, when you're in events, your schedule is not very consistent, you know, like Howie just mentioned, we have a huge 1,200 person event in Baltimore. I don't know if that's the one you're working on with us, but we have a huge event on Saturday and we have multiple events over the weekend. And I have a team member that had events this week. And so, you know, we all know, right? It's the nature of the beast. So I think really someone who understands that and has a passion for it, because I found that, you know, we had a couple of existing team members that were here that I inherited, and they're burnt out, right? They don't love it. One of them is actually resigned today. And so he's like, I can't handle the nature of this industry, were his words. And he's has a nonprofit background. And so is going back to that space. So I think it's really just ensuring that we're very transparent about the expectations and requirements, whether it's, you know, you're a caterer or, you know, you're a DJ, whatever your business looks like. We all have a similar workflow that's not very consistent, I would say. And then I would also say, like, looking at production and sales. So we, like I mentioned, we have split roles. So we have our producers who manage like the back end logistics, and some of them want to be salespeople. So they're in the process. I'm building a pipeline and a bench, as I like to call it, of teaching them, you know, the production aspect and then honing their sales skills so that they can move into that sales role. And so I think it's understanding like what are the needs, you know, for your business in terms of logistics related things, or whether it's, you know, strictly selling focus. Can it be a hybrid role? Can the salesperson also execute, you know, on site? So I feel like those roles are typically separate. You usually are like a salesperson and you don't like the details. I am one of those. And, or you really, you know, love the details and you don't want to sell. And so it's kind of hard, I think, to find a combination of both, but it can be done. And so you could have a hybrid position. You know, it's really just up to the needs of your company and the types of candidates that you're looking for. And then I would also say like flexibility, commitment, and excitement, which I kind of just spoke to already. You know, I find that if someone doesn't really love, you know, events or catering or this work, because our workflow and our workload is it changes all the time, and every day is kind of different, and you know what I mean, you have to really you have to enjoy it. Your heart has to be in it, because otherwise I think a lot of people can feel pretty burnt out and like they need a break. And we all need breaks. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of work-life balance as well, but I do think you have to kind of have that level of like, this is what I've gotten myself into. And so someone who's really committed and passionate about this industry, and that really wants to be in it, and knows, what it's going to take to kind of be successful in that. So, I think that's really, really key. And then I would also say that one thing I didn't have up here is someone who has an understanding of, I would agree with the emotional selling, given that most of the time the events we're doing, we do a lot of corporate, but we also do a lot of social as well. And understanding how to really connect with your client on an emotional level versus just like churning and burning and throwing things out there. Really, relationship selling is really key as well for us.
Definitely. Jeff?
Well, it's interesting. Bridget, I appreciate you talking about them relating to and having that passion for the event company or the event service industry. Literally, while you were talking, I got a text from somebody wanting to be hired as a DJ for us. And what's interesting is, we have a motto in our company that we are always recruiting, whether you're at an event, whether you're at, we have an amusement park next to us called Kings Island, and I'll be on that ride and they'll get on that microphone. I'm over there going, let's see how they do on that mic. Am I going to recruit this guy to be a DJ? They're like, how was your ride? And I'm like, no, they're not good. So, we are always in the mindset of recruiting and looking for that talent out there. And one thing that I would say when it comes to hiring is that they understand this industry. For DJs specifically, this guy that just texted me, he says he's been a club DJ for 8 years. And I can tell you that our experience hiring club DJs, they don't understand the private event industry. It's a different world. You almost have to retrain them, because the private event industry functions, you're not hiding in a DJ booth somewhere. You have to be visible. You have to present yourself differently. You have to deal more directly with moms and brides and, not just the bartender. And so, they have to understand that. And so my first thought there was people who come from, we like to hire from staff and people who perform at events. I touched on that earlier, but if a salesperson can sit down across the table from a client and they have an intimate knowledge of how an event happens, for example, a wedding, when a toast should take place, they have to realize they're sitting across the table from somebody that has never purchased this service in their life. And you now to them can be the expert and almost take them by the hand and go, I will walk you through this, and I'm going to make this a great experience for you because I've done this. I've experienced this hundreds of times. And that gives that client a huge sense of ease, and is a big key to that sale, that making that emotional connection and that sale. So if you can put somebody in that chair that's actually outperforming or is a part of those events, they're going to have a leg up. As far as presenting themselves professionally, we are doing events that many times those events that they're planning, people are dressed in tuxedos or they're dressed in suits and ties, they're black tie events. Even for a mitzvah, those 13-year-olds are putting on what looks like prom dresses and they're fully, decked out for these events. If they come in to do that sale and they're sitting across from somebody that does not present themselves like they see somebody who's coming to their event, I'm not saying that our staff wears suits and ties at work, but they dress decent. They're not coming in with looking casual or like they're going to a club, for example. That person makes a better emotional connection that this person is qualified to be a part of my event if they can present themselves professionally. That also goes down to personal hygiene and somebody, that if somebody smokes, they need to make sure that that doesn't come off their breath if they're sitting face to face with somebody, because those things can all instantly be emotional turnoffs for those clients. So when we're staffing, Those are some of the qualities that we look for, surface qualities, and also how well do they understand those events. The last thing I'll say is, how good are they at capturing details and then communicating those on to our team? That's crucial. If they can't ask the right questions to get enough detail and draw those details out of that client, they're not going to understand the desires of that client well enough to even turn around and then communicate that to our team. Then how can our team deliver if they don't know what that client wants? So a good salesperson knows how to ask pointed questions and dig to get those details, and then put them into our CRM. So put them into good shuffle notes so that communicates to the client, to our team that goes out there and they can execute them properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Fernando, I love your company values. So if you could talk a little bit about the common values, how you screen for that.
So it's hard to get the right people, right? So it takes some time. It could be the first person, second or third, but I think, the values of your company. So we have a saying here, it's 100-0, so 100% responsibility, 0 excuses. So it's everything that we do, from 100% responsibility for great customer service, great product, being on time, or, doing what we say we're going to do, and not having excuses of, oh, there was traffic or this or that. So getting someone that really believes in what your company values are, to me, are very important. It's to me, I'd rather have someone who cares, who wants to do better, who wants to succeed, versus someone that just wants to come in and just get a paycheck. So I rather find someone with that would fit into our, I want to say family orientated business but it's something. I just want someone with a good heart, someone that cares, someone that's going to care for that customer, versus being like, I just want that money, right? So I want someone to take care of the business just like the owner would, or whatever. So to me, is the common values are very important to us. There's going to be mistakes, there's going to be issues. It's just how we deal with them, and we're striving to be the best. So always looking for the person to fit those values is to me very important. And then to touch back with what Bridget and Jeff said, so we have inside and outside salespeople. I think inside is very emotional, and getting them to sell that emotion to the brides and everything that comes in. So that part's very important. And I think we're running out of time, so I'll be short. But I think the second, with our outside salesperson, I think it goes back to trust. When we go getting those B2B businesses, is having a salesperson to be able to talk about us, talk about the product, and really build that trust level with that B2B client, the venues, the caterers, et cetera, because for us, there's all these venues, all these people probably have used someone, or are using someone. So how do we get that salesperson to convince them that, hey, we want to be an extension of you? So we want to be able to supply you the rentals that you need. So can we upgrade so you guys make more money and have a higher price point for selling your venue, because you can have better products or better thing, or more options, from linen colors to fabrics to chairs or whatever it may be. So having that salesperson being able to build that trust to the client, I think, is very important. But I think coming down to those core values and building trust is very important.
I agree. All right, you're right. We are getting a little short on time. Howie, do you have anything to add around qualities and experience that you look for when you're hiring?
Yeah, well, I will say one thing. Everybody here has hit really good points, and it's very comforting to know that we're all going through the same problems together and dealing with the same issues as a business. And, sometimes we feel like, oh, it's just me, but no, it's nice to know that we're not the only ones. We're all going through it. The thing I would add is, yes, core values, aesthetics, how the person looks, handles themselves, all very, very important. But maybe just a few things to think about on top of that is, based on the industry you're in, I would try to find, a salesperson that also has already been in the business, whether they were a former director of sales at a hotel or a country club. Because one thing about sales is they can only do their job if they have leads or things to follow up on. And if they don't, what you want, or what I look for, is someone who says, okay, you know what, there's no current leads that I have that are pending, I'm all up to date. Let me reach out to my existing contacts and drum up some business that way. And that I found also could be tremendous for helping a company with sales. In addition, you don't want something I don't look for is someone who's looking for a 9 to 5. If the sale needs to be done on a Saturday, if it needs to be done on a Tuesday at 7 p.m., whenever that job needs to be sold or that client is ready to do business, you want that salesperson to be like, hey, I'm here. Not, oh, I punched out at 5:01, so let's pick it up tomorrow. You want to get that sale while it's hot. And like I said, if you can find someone who already has a deep connection in your industry, even when they don't have current leads, they can develop new relationships, which can turn into new customers down the road.
Absolutely. And that relates directly back to what Bridget was saying too, right? About like understanding the industry, being a part of that life. Like events do not
In
run
this
on a 9 to
industry,
5 schedule.
we are all crazy for being in this industry. Okay, there was not a person here. We don't work on a 5-day-a-week plan. We are all working, most of us 6-7 days a week. And you have to be a crazy kind of person to love it the way we do. But, we expect that not only from our talent and our production team, but also from our sales.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we've got one question left. We've got 6 minutes left. So if everyone can take 90 seconds, we'll do a rapid fire salesperson retention session. Bridget, can you do it?
Okay, so one of the key things I want to focus on for this is creating opportunities for growth. And so I think one of the things I mentioned earlier was that we created a career progression. So for us, the event producers that do all the logistics and production, there was nowhere for them to go if they didn't want to be an event designer. They're pretty much capped. So we created a tiered program where they could move into a senior role and then another elevated role, so that even though they were staying in this similar capacity of their role, they weren't shifting to sales, which would have been the progression for most. They have now opportunities to earn more money, to have title changes. And so I think it's really important. People want to know that whether it's making more money or they'll get a title change or they take on more responsibility. I think that's key for keeping people motivated and wanting to stay with you. And the other thing I'll say is, oftentimes in sales, there's a lack of humanity and empathy, speaking from just coming from a company that went from 50 employees to 2,500. And so really keeping that connection, one-on-one connection, and just humanizing the relationship building with your employees, helping them feel heard, having that one-on-one support can go a long way.
Awesome. Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I really believe that you have to make people feel like what they do on a daily basis makes a difference. And many times the salesperson, they're the front end, they're the person that meets with that client, and then the event gets staged and it gets executed, and they never get to see that end result. They're not the one getting the hug from the bride at the end of the night, or the high five from the client saying this event was awesome. They didn't get to experience that. So find ways to bring that back to that salesperson, whether it's through stories, whether it's through reading reviews, the people that were at the event to come back and tell stories about how great the event went. If they sold something that really turned out well, that needs to come back so that they get that satisfaction of realizing how much this matters. A way we do that, Fernando hit it earlier, was weekly staff meetings. All of our team comes together on a weekly basis. This creates indirect pressure for performance, but it also creates community because they're looking at each other's numbers, but they're also hearing from each other. They'll pick up a tip every week. Somebody will say, I tried this, I'm using this PDF, I'm using this form email. And that creates that sense of community and that culture. We also use a group chat where everybody's on it. On a Saturday, that thing will go crazy, where we're all talking about stories, and those sales teams are on that again so that they get a piece of the end result.
Nice. I love that. Recognition is so important. Fernando.
I completely agree with Jeff. But to start off with is the weekly meetings. Having those SMART goals, being specific, measurable, obtainable, realistic, timely. That way it's just realistic. You're not stressing them out. Everyone's on the same sheet of music. So everyone is in the same sheet of music, so the company can reach their goals and the salesperson can reach their goals. Those weekly meetings, promoting within, I completely agree with Bridget. And then lastly, like I said with Jeff, is the positive reinforcement. Obviously having the right structure, commission, because money is a motivator. But also just a simple thank you. And like Jeff said, I sometimes print out like when we get the 5-star reviews and stuff, and they talk about the staff and how are things, I print it out because you always hear about the negatives, or they always hear when something gets screwed up. So they never hear about the good stuff. So, I print it out every once in a while and I put it on their desk, and, with a thank you note or whatever, they're doing a great job. So, it just feels good to get appreciated. So, and know that you're doing a good job. Lunch every once in a while, swag or whatever it may be. But I know I've done it a few times is they actually, sometimes when I gave them the paper, they actually looked worried because they thought it was something wrong again. But it was, it was a great review and it had their name specifically on it. One was the inside salesperson and the other name was the person that delivered it and how great they were. So just letting them know how they're doing and they're appreciated it goes a long way.
Nice. Love that. Howie.
I mean, everything that we're talking about comes down to company culture. And you want a culture in your company where everybody, all employees feel appreciated, heard, and respected, and that their job means something more than a paycheck. But in specifically regarding like the commissions, one of the biggest problems that I faced, or that I perceived as a problem, is unlike weddings that book 6 to 12 months out, with bar mitzvahs, they're booking 2026, 2027. We got a request for 2028. And the problem I found was it's hard for a salesperson to get motivated on a commission that they're going to earn in 2028. Because what I found was you can't pay the commission now because the job may not happen, whatever. What I figured out was I worked out a scale where we could pay a certain percentage up front, pay another percentage down the road, but by paying less up front, the difference was they were able to be paid right then and there and see the result of their work. So it's always math, and it always comes down to just working the right type of commission product that will motivate the individual salesperson. It doesn't necessarily have to be one size fits all, as long as the margins are met for the company.
Perfect. And that's a great place to leave it. We did have a couple of questions come in. I will share those with the panel over email, and maybe we can get a couple of those answered via email if y'all have a chance to do that. And next year we will schedule this panel for an hour.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. I really appreciate it. We'll see y'all in the next session.
Thank you, Allison.
Bye-bye.